He chose her over me. Now I wake up to freedom, champagne, and self-respect. He said she understood him better, but what he never understood was how powerful I'd become once I stopped waiting to be chosen. The day he walked out, I didn't collapse, I rebuilt. Now, I wake up not to apologies or excuses, but to freedom, champagne, and a peace money can't buy. This isn't a story of heartbreak, it's a story of rebirth. You're watching USLA 1 Stories, where every ending becomes a beginning. Don't forget to subscribe, share this story with your friends and loved ones, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's begin. I'll be late. Don't call me. I found someone who actually understands me. Liam's text flashed on my phone, a stark announcement shattering a decade of shared life. My reply was swift and decisive, born of exhaustion and a sudden, fierce clarity. Then stay with her. Don't come back. 15 minutes later, my phone vibrated furiously, a flurry of missed calls. It was almost comical. The man who believed I'd crumble without him, now panicking at my silence. The irony was a bitter, yet strangely empowering, taste. I stood in the hospital break room, the sterile fluorescent lights casting a harsh glow on my sweat-damp scrubs. Just moments ago, my hands, usually steady enough to restart a failing heart, had trembled as I clutched the phone. Mr. Henderson, a patient I'd fought to save for 12 relentless hours, hadn't made it. And now, these 20 words from Liam marked the quiet, unceremonious death of my marriage. Not even a phone call, just a casual text. My coffee, untouched, sat cooling beside a leftover birthday cake, its wilting pink frosting a poignant counterpoint to the celebration it once represented. "Happy birthday, Jennifer," it read, the absurdity of the scene not lost on me, someone's joy juxtaposed with my sudden, profound loss. Yet, there were no tears, no dramatic outbursts, only a calm resolve. I walked to the sink, the scalding water washing away not just the day's grime, but years of unspoken pain. Mr. Henderson had fought for his life. My marriage, it seemed, had simply faded away. Just 4 days prior, I'd meticulously prepared Liam's coffee, 2 sugars, oat milk, in his special Denver conference mug. He'd sat at our kitchen table, engrossed in his phone, his thumb moving in that familiar, distant rhythm. Our morning kiss, a reflex more than a connection, was dry, his mind clearly elsewhere. "Emergency client meeting," he'd mumbled, not looking up. "Might run late." I'd swallowed the question about Sunday emergencies, watching him leave, his wedding ring conspicuously forgotten on the counter for the 3rd time that week. His excuse, once, had been that it interfered with typing. A small indentation on his finger offered as proof of his supposed dedication to work, not an escalating detachment. Beatrice, my charge nurse, found me 20 minutes later, lost in the grim symmetry of Liam's 20 words. "You okay?" she asked, her seasoned nurse's intuition already piercing through my facade. "I'm fine," I lied, drying my hands raw on the rough paper towels. But the truth was, I'd seen this coming for months. The small erosions. He stopped asking about my day, stopped noticing my double shifts, started mentioning Chloe from his consulting firm. Chloe had this brilliant idea. Chloe stayed late. Chloe really understands the vision. Her very name, it seemed, epitomized a world of leisure and effortless sophistication, a stark contrast to my reality of blood-stained scrubs and the visceral demands of saving lives. I recalled the night of his senior partner promotion, 6 months ago. At that expensive steakhouse, I wore the black dress he'd bought, hoping to feel like someone other than an exhausted nurse. But he'd spent the entire dinner texting, his face illuminated by the screen, smiling at messages I couldn't see. "Chloe," he'd explained, congratulating me. "She really gets how hard I've worked." Asterisk, he gets it. He understands. Asterisk. Those words had lodged in my chest, shards of shrapnel. When had I stopped understanding him? Or had he simply stopped times letting times me? Our text history was a grim timeline of decline. Mundane grocery lists, bill payments, his messages growing shorter, mine trying harder. A thumbs up emoji in response to a photo from our 5-year anniversary trip. A stark symbol of our dwindling connection. Friends, even my own mother, still lauded our perfect marriage, unaware of the hollow silence that filled our apartment, pushing me to volunteer for overnight shifts just to escape it. Serena from pediatrics joined me, sensing the heavy atmosphere. "Rough night?" she asked. "Mr. Henderson didn't make it," I conceded, a partial truth. She squeezed my shoulder. "It never gets easier." And it didn't. Death in the cardiac unit was a constant reminder of fragility. But the slow, flatlining death of a marriage, while you desperately tried to resuscitate it, felt infinitely more brutal. No follow-up text from Liam, "No, I didn't mean it." Just those 20 words, a terminal diagnosis. The coffee I'd abandoned had gone cold, a film forming on its surface. I poured it down the drain, watching 10 years spiral away. Back on the floor, the rhythmic beeping of monitors, the whoosh of ventilators, the relentless fight of human hearts, it all grounded me. Mine, I realized, had stopped long ago. I just hadn't noticed until tonight. The rest of my shift was a blur of controlled chaos. "Mrs. Chen coded at 11:30, her family's desperate pleas warring with her DNR. I pressed on her fragile chest, feeling ribs crack, her daughter's screams to try harder echoing my own internal battles. We brought her back, briefly, only for her to code again. Her son accused me of giving up. I wanted to tell him that sometimes, trying harder meant knowing when to stop, that his mother's heart was simply tired. Instead, I called security, and she died peacefully, without an audience. By 9 p.m., my scrubs were a map of the day's battles. Beatrice met me at the coffee machine. "Alara, we need to talk." I knew. My desperate grabs for extra shifts, the holidays volunteered, the weekends spent here instead of at our echoing apartment, she'd seen it all. 6 doubles this month. That's not sustainable. I'm fine. I need the money. We're saving for. I trailed off, the lie catching in my throat. What times were times we saving for? The vacation Liam kept postponing? The house he claimed we couldn't afford despite his promotions? Beatrice, a veteran of 20 years, knew. "Honey, I know when someone's running from something." I forced a laugh. "Running? I'm barely walking after today." Her face remained serious. "Is everything okay at home?" 3 months ago, I would have answered automatically. 2 months ago, I might have hesitated. Tonight, covered in someone else's blood, utterly exhausted, I couldn't even pretend. "I should check on my patients," I muttered, escaping to the break room. The space was empty, save for the vending machine's hum. I collapsed, pulling out my phone to text Liam I'd be late. That's when I saw his message, sent 3 minutes prior. Asterisk, "I'll be late. Don't call me. I found someone who actually understands me." Asterisk. The words didn't land immediately. I read them clinically, like a lab result. Then they detonated. Asterisk. Found someone who understands me. Asterisk. The hum of the vending machine grew deafening. My hands, which had trembled saving Mrs. Chen, were steady as I typed. "Then stay with her. Don't come back." I hit send, setting the phone face down. In the bathroom mirror, my reflection was stark. Blood on my scrubs, hair escaping, bags under my eyes. Yet, my face was calm, resolute, like a surgeon making a critical decision. Back in the break room, I turned off my phone, shoved it in my locker, and returned to the floor. "Everything okay?" Serena asked. "Perfect," I said, and for the first time in a long time, I meant it. The next 3 hours, which should have been torture, instead flew by with crystalline clarity. Charts updated, medications administered with Zen-like precision. Mr. Davies' pain management adjusted without internal debate. The new nurse, fumbling an IV, found my guiding hand surprisingly patient. At midnight, Beatrice found me reorganizing the supply closet. "What are you doing?" "Inventory. Morning shift always complains they can't find anything." She leaned against the doorframe, observing my military precision with gauze boxes. "You've been different tonight, calmer, which terrifies me more than if you were falling apart." I turned to her. "You know what the hardest part of this job is? It's not the death. It's not the families who blame us. It's going home to someone who doesn't understand why we do it, who doesn't get why we stay late, why we cry in our cars, why we come back day after day even when it breaks us." Beatrice's expression softened. "Oh, honey, I'm not looking for sympathy," I continued, turning back to the supplies. "I'm just saying I finally understand something. You can't make someone understand you. They either do or they don't. And if they don't, forcing it is like performing CPR on someone who's been down for an hour. You're just breaking ribs for no reason." Beatrice watched me, then left, but not before squeezing my shoulder, a small gesture of understanding that spoke louder than a decade of Liam's perfunctory "How was your day?" At 12:45, the closet was immaculate, order from chaos, control where I could find it. I changed out of my bloody scrubs, stuffing them into a biohazard bag with a strange satisfaction. The blood wasn't mine, the pain wasn't mine. For once, the tragedy belonged to someone else. My phone remained off. Whatever messages waited could wait forever. The parking garage elevator smelled of stale cigarettes and disappointment. My car started on the 3rd try. Liam always handled the cars. Another thing I'd have to figure out on my own. The thought should have scared me, but instead, I felt a peculiar excitement, as if handed a permission slip to become someone new. Portland at midnight looked different when driving toward freedom, not home. Neon signs blurred into puddles like bleeding watercolors. I passed places once sacred to us: our first date coffee shop, the bookstore, the bar where we'd celebrated our last anniversary before he left early for another crisis. The 24-hour Safeway appeared like an oasis. I parked crooked across 2 spaces, a small, necessary rebellion. Inside, I grabbed a cart, even though I only needed 2 things. The expensive Pinot Noir we'd been saving for a special occasion, a bargain now, for my independence. And ice cream. Liam hated mint chocolate chip, called it toothpaste flavored. I grabbed 2 pints, then coffee ice cream, which he deemed too bitter, strawberry cheesecake, too sweet. My cart became a monument to every small compromise I'd made. The checker, a kid with tired eyes, scanned my items. "Long night?" he asked. "The best kind," I replied, surprising us both. The drive to My Times apartment took exactly 12 minutes. I counted every one, keenly aware this was the last time I'd make this journey as a married woman, pretending everything was fine. Tomorrow, I'd drive it as someone else. Someone who bought mint chocolate chip ice cream at midnight and didn't apologize. Liam's parking spot was vacant, his absence so routine it had stopped registering months ago. I took the stairs, needing to feel my body move, proof I was still capable of forward motion. My keys felt heavier, weighted with the knowledge that I was entering a space mine to reshape. The apartment was dark, exactly as I'd left it. No lights left on, no note, no sign of worry. But the silence felt different now, not oppressive, but expectant, like the pause before a song begins. I flipped on every light, flooding the space with brightness Liam would have deemed wasteful. The living room came alive, and I saw everything clearly. The gray couch I'd picked while he was at a conference. The abstract painting he'd mocked but I'd bought anyway. The bookshelf, my medical journals segregated from his unread business books. Our interests like divorced parents' weekends. My phone remained silent in my bag. I knew the avalanche awaited, but first, I opened the wine, ignoring the special aerator Liam had insisted we needed. It tasted like rebellion and relief. I walked through each room, glass in hand, seeing our life together for what it truly was. The guest room, his office. The bathroom, his expensive colognes, my drugstore shampoo. Our California king bed, crowded even when he traveled. On the balcony overlooking the city, I finally pulled out my phone. My finger hovered over the power button. Once on, this became real. The texts, my response, the ending, all in digital permanence. I pressed it. The screen came alive at 10:47 p.m. 3 seconds of nothing. Then the avalanche. Missed call from Liam. Missed call from Liam. Missed call from Liam. 53 missed calls. 28 texts. 6 voicemails. All from him. I scrolled through the texts, each a stage of grief, asterisk, that came out wrong. I didn't mean it like that. Elara, please call me. This is ridiculous, you're overreacting. We need to talk. Where are you? I know you're seeing this. This is insane. You can't just end our marriage over a text. Answer your phone, please. I'm sorry. It's not what you think. Chloe means nothing. I'm coming home. Where are you? This isn't like you. You're scaring me, Elara. Please. I love you. Asterisk, I read that last one aloud to the Portland skyline. Asterisk, I love you. Asterisk, 3 words that, this morning, would have meant everything. Now, they felt like counterfeit bills, worthless and insulting. Amidst Liam's frantic messages, 3 from Vivian. Asterisk, Liam just called me. Are you okay? Elara, what's happening? He sounds frantic. Call me. No judgment. Just worried. Asterisk, I typed back. Asterisk, better than okay. He chose to stay late with someone who understands him. I just made it permanent. Open that Malbec you've been saving. We're celebrating tomorrow. Asterisk, her immediate reply, asterisk, holy. Yes. Wine, tissues and bail money ready if needed. Asterisk, I laughed. A genuine, full-throated laugh, alone on my balcony at nearly 11 at night. The city spread below. Thousands of lights, thousands of lives. How many were in marriages like mine? How many stood on balconies, reading desperate texts from spouses who'd only realized they cared when it was too late? My phone rang again. Liam. I watched his contact photo fill the screen. Us at the coast, squinting into the sun, his arm around me like he actually wanted it there. I let it ring through to voicemail, then deleted it without listening. The wine tasted better with each sip. The city lights blurred. Whether from tears or alcohol, I neither knew nor cared. I raised my glass to Portland, to its strangers, to the new nurse Amy, to Beatrice who had known, to Mrs. Chen who'd fought, to Vivian with her bail money, to understanding ourselves. Since that's all we can really control, I whispered. My phone lit up again. Another call from Liam. Number 54. I turned it face down on the balcony table and went inside to eat mint chocolate chip ice cream straight from the pint. Finally, understanding what freedom tasted like. The mint chocolate chip ice cream had melted into soup by the time I finally went to bed. I left the pint on the coffee table, a small rebellion against Liam's rules about food in the living room. At 6 a.m., my alarm didn't go off because I'd never fallen asleep. Instead of exhaustion, I felt wired, electric, a new energy source powered by pure determination. At 7, I called the hospital, listening to the phone ring while making coffee in the French press Liam never used. Cardiac unit, this is Serena. It's Ilara. I need to call in sick today. 3 years without a single absence through flu seasons, food poisoning, even throwing out my back moving. Liam's never used exercise equipment. Are you okay? You seemed different last night. I'm perfect, just have some personal matters to handle. Another pause. Beatrice mentioned you might need some time. Take care of yourself. I hung up and dialed the bank next. While on hold, I slipped my wedding ring off my left hand, moving it to my right. The indentation it left behind looked like a scar that would fade with time. Washington Federal, this is Brenda. How can I help you today? I need to separate a joint account. Brenda's voice shifted to that careful tone people use for delicate situations. I can help you with that. Will both account holders be present? No, just me. 20 minutes later, at the downtown branch, Brenda, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes, didn't comment on my wrinkled clothes or the early hour. How would you like to divide the funds? Exactly half. I'm not trying to be vindictive. She nodded, typing. The numbers on her screen made me realize how much we'd saved, never spending on joy. No vacations because Liam was too busy. No concerts because he found live music chaotic. No nice dinners because he preferred networking at work events I wasn't invited to. Will you be needing new checks? Everything new. New account, new cards, new everything. She smiled slightly. Fresh start. The freshest. By 10:30, I was back at the apartment with a new bank account, temporary checks, and the phone number for Max, the locksmith, that Brenda had discreetly written on a post-it. My nephew, she'd explained. He's helped a lot of my friends with transitions. Max arrived in a van emblazoned with fresh start locks, almost comically on the nose. Miss Vance, he greeted, younger than I expected, with tattooed sleeves and a tool belt. That's me. He studied the existing locks. Boyfriend trouble? Husband trouble? Soon-to-be ex-husband trouble. He nodded, unpacking tools. You'd be surprised how many calls I get on Thursdays. Something about Thursdays makes people realize they deserve better. As he worked, he shared stories. A woman who changed locks after finding her husband's dating profile. A man who discovered an affair via shared Netflix. You seem pretty calm, he observed, installing the third deadbolt. I work in cardiac. Once you've restarted someone's heart with your bare hands, changing locks doesn't seem that dramatic. Fair point. He handed me 4 keys. These locks are pick-proof, bum-proof, and X-proof. That last one's not technically an industry term, but it should be. After Max left, I stood in the middle of the apartment, new keys in hand. Liam's presence was everywhere, yet nowhere. His things were here, but when had he times last been present? I started with his office, investment magazines unread, identical awards, the standing desk he'd insisted on but never used. Each item went into liquor store boxes, their previous contents more honest about their purpose. His 6 expensive, rarely worn watches followed. In the bedroom, his suits hung like expensive ghosts, each folded with the same respect I gave patient belongings. His ties, color-coordinated, barely touched. His polished shoes, lined up like soldiers who'd never seen battle. The bathroom took the longest, his skincare routine, his seasonal colognes, the electric toothbrush upgraded thrice. I found forgotten things, an unopened anniversary card, a honeymoon photo shoved behind hair products, the watch I'd saved for months to buy him, still in its box. By 2 p.m., 11 boxes stood by the door, a cardboard testimony to a marriage that had been over long before last night. I'd just been the only one still trying to resuscitate it. My phone rang. George, the doorman. Miss Vance. Mr. Vance is here. His key fob seems to be malfunctioning. I could hear Liam's sharp, frustrated voice in the background. It's not malfunctioning. Something's wrong with the system. The system is working perfectly, George. His access has been revoked. His belongings are packed by the door. Could you help him load them? Of course, Miss Vance. Oh, and George, it's Miss Vance permanently now. Understood, Miss Vance. I'll make a note. I hung up, staring at the boxes. Through the intercom, I heard the elevator, George's murmur, then Liam's voice, sharp and escalating. My phone rang immediately. Elara, what the hell is this? His voice crackled, cycling between fury and fear. Hello, Liam. I walked to the kitchen, washing the coffee mug, the French press he'd never learned to use. The locks, the boxes. Are you having some kind of breakdown? No, I said, meticulously drying the mug. I'm having a breakthrough. There's a difference. This is insane. You're being completely irrational. Over one text. Not one text, Liam. One honest text. After years of dishonest everything else. I don't even know what that means. It means you finally told me the truth. You found someone who understands you. Chloe. Right. From your firm. Silence. Then defensive. Chloe is a colleague. We work on projects together. Projects, I scoffed. Is that what we're calling it now? Nothing happened yet. Nothing happened yet, but you wanted it to. You've been wanting it to for months. Every mention of her brilliant ideas, her innovative strategies, how she gets your vision. You've been having an emotional affair, Liam, whether you touched her or not. That's not your twisting things. I'm clarifying things. You said you found someone who understands you. Present tense. You already found her. I'm just stepping aside so you can pursue that understanding without me in the way. I heard his heavy breathing. In the background, George loaded boxes into the elevator, each thud another piece of our marriage removed. Where am I supposed to go? His voice was smaller, anger deflating. To Chloe, your brother's, that extended stay hotel you used for all those client emergencies. I don't know, Liam, but it's not my problem to solve anymore. You're my wife. Was times your wife. Now I'm the woman respecting your need to be understood by someone else. He hung up. 20 seconds later he called back. We need to talk about this in person. No, we don't. You can't just end 10 years over. You ended it, Liam. I'm just handling the logistics. This time he didn't call back immediately. I stood in my quiet kitchen, afternoon light streaming through windows he'd wanted to cover with blackout curtains. The peace felt surreal, like the calm after a tornado, checking if you still have all your limbs. At midnight, my phone buzzed. Not Liam this time. An unknown number with a wall of text, *Hi Elara. This is Chloe from Liam's firm. I want you to know that nothing physical has happened between us. We've had some deep conversations about work and life, but I would never cross that line with a married man. There's been an emotional connection, yes, and maybe some feelings developed that shouldn't have, but I swear we haven't acted on anything. Liam is devoted to you. He talks about you all the time. These late nights have just been about the Morrison project mostly. Okay, sometimes we talked about other things, personal things, but that's normal for colleagues who spend time together. I think you're misunderstanding our professional chemistry. Can we talk woman to woman? I never meant for any of this. I read it 3 times. Nothing physical times meant they'd thought about it. Asterisk feelings developed times confirmed what I knew. Asterisk talks about you all the time times was past tense and likely complaints. Asterisk professional chemistry times was just another term for an emotional affair. I didn't respond. The next morning, my phone rang at 7:30. Liam's mother, Eleanor, calling from Scottsdale, her retirement community costing more than most people's mortgages. Alara, sweetheart, what is this nonsense I'm hearing? Liam called me at midnight, hysterical, says you've locked him out, changed the banks. This is not how marriages work. I almost laughed. Eleanor, on her third husband, lecturing me times about how marriages work. Liam found someone who understands him better. I'm respecting that choice. Men say stupid things when they're stressed. You can't take every word literally. I can. And I am. You're giving up so easily after everything you've built together. What did we build, Eleanor? Really? A life where he works 18-hour days and I eat dinner alone. Where he spends more time with Chloe from his office than with me. That's not a marriage. That's just two people with the same address. Her voice cracked. Who's going to take care of him? He's 37. He makes $200,000 a year. I think he'll figure it out. But his anxiety, his needs, they're not my responsibility anymore. She hung up, a family tradition at this point. 2 hours later, Vivian arrived with her emergency divorce kit, 2 bottles of wine, fancy chocolate, tissues, and her tablet loaded with apartment listings. She found me on a ladder, painting the accent wall coral. Okay, this is not what I expected, she said. What did you expect? Crying, bed wallowing, maybe some therapeutic plate smashing. I did my crying in increments over the past year. Every time he chose work over us, every time he mentioned Chloe, every time I ate dinner alone. I'm all cried out. She watched me paint, steady strokes covering the beige Liam had insisted was calming. You know what? She said finally. I never liked him. I nearly dropped the brush. What? He was condescending. Remember at your birthday dinner when he corrected the wine pronunciation, or when he explained your own job to you at the Christmas party? He was exhausting to be around. We all thought it, but you seemed, I don't know, committed to making it work. Committed to being blind. More like committed to your vows. There's a difference between giving up and knowing when to stop. You knew when to stop. She helped me finish the wall, both of us splattered with coral drops that looked like celebratory confetti. The color transformed the room, warm where it had been cold, alive where it had been sterile. He's going to come back, Vivian said, washing paint off her hands. Men like Liam always do. When Chloe realizes he's actually available, she'll run. When he has to do his own laundry and cooking and emotional labor, he'll come crawling back. Maybe, I said, admiring the wall. But I won't be here. Not in the way he needs me to be. Vivian left that evening. I was admiring the coral wall when the doorbell rang at 8:30. Through the peephole, I saw Liam's brother, Ethan, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Ethan, I said, opening the door but not moving aside. Let me guess. Emergency intervention. He shifted his messenger bag. Can I come in? I flew down from Seattle. You flew down for Liam, not for me. Alara, please just hear me out. Against my better judgment, I let him in. He stopped short at the coral wall, the rearranged furniture, the absence of Liam's things. Well, you've already, he trailed off, sitting gingerly on my new throw pillows. Coffee? I asked, moving to the kitchen. Please. I made it in the French press, using the cheerful yellow mugs Liam had relegated to the back of the cabinet. Ethan pulled out his laptop, and I almost laughed. Did you seriously make a PowerPoint? His ears turned red. I'm an analyst. It's how I process things. He opened a presentation titled, Financial and Emotional Implications of Divorce *. Slide 1 showed statistics. Slide 2 broke down shared assets. By slide 5, covering the average cost of divorce proceedings in Oregon, I struggled not to smile. Ethan, this is very thorough, but he's been calling me at 2 a.m., he blurted out, abandoning his presentation. Every night since Thursday, crying. Liam doesn't cry. Not when Dad died. Not when the first startup failed. But now he's sobbing on my voicemail about proper pronunciation of espresso machine brands. He's grieving the Times idea times of me, not the reality. There's a difference. He says he messed up. That Chloe was just a symptom, not the disease. I know. Ethan closed his laptop slowly. You seem really okay with this. I am really okay with this. That's what concerns everyone, isn't it? That I'm not falling apart according to schedule. He sipped his coffee, looking uncomfortable. Mom's flying in tomorrow. Your mom already called. I handled it. No, your times, Mom. She called me when she couldn't reach you. My stomach dropped. Of course she had. The next morning, back at work, Beatrice pulled me aside. You have a visitor in the lobby. My mother would have gone straight to the apartment. This was someone else. I walked down to find Chloe perched on one of the waiting room chairs, designer heels tapping nervously. She looked smaller here, out of place among the worried families. I need 5 minutes, she said, standing. I'm working. Please. I know I have no right to ask, but please. I led her to the cafeteria, buying myself a coffee I didn't want, just to have something to do with my hands. She sat across from me, her practiced speech visible. I'm not that kind of woman, she began. What kind is that? The kind who breaks up marriages. You didn't break up anything that wasn't already broken. Her composure cracked slightly. Nothing physical happened. You said that in your text, but emotional things did happen. Conversations, connection. She twisted her rings. I thought he was unhappy. He seemed so lost. He was lost in his own ego, in his need to be admired. You provided that. I didn't mean Chloe. What did you think would happen, really? That you'd have deep emotional conversations forever without consequence. That I'd just keep existing in the background while you two connected over revolutionary business strategies. She flinched. He said you were growing apart. We were because he was growing toward you. I told him to work on his marriage multiple times before or after the late-night conversations about your shared vision. She stood abruptly. I wanted you to know I'm transferring to the Chicago office. Running away, starting fresh, like you are. She paused at the cafeteria entrance. Can I ask you something? Would you take him back? No. Even if he changed, he'd be changing for the wrong reasons. To get me back, not to be better. There's a difference. She left, her heels clicking down the hallway like a countdown timer. I finished my unwanted coffee and went back to my patients, people whose hearts actually wanted to be saved. That afternoon, my phone rang with an unknown number. Miss Vance, this is Dr. Evelyn Reed. Your husband booked an emergency couples counseling session for tomorrow at 2. We're not a couple anymore, Dr. Reed. Oh, he seemed quite urgent about it. He mentioned you were having a temporary disagreement. It's not temporary. We're getting divorced. I see. Her professional composure slipped slightly. May I be candid? He sounded quite dysregulated when he called. Perhaps individual therapy would be more beneficial. That's an excellent suggestion. You should tell him that. I will. Miss Crawford, Miss Vance, you sound remarkably centered. Are you seeing someone for support? Yes, myself. For the first time in years. I'd just gotten home when my mother's car pulled up. I watched from the window as she unloaded 2 casserole dishes and a judgment face I could see from 4 floors up. She let herself in with her spare key, stopping short at the coral wall. Alara Marie Vance. What have you done? Redecorated. She set down the casseroles and began her inspection. Where's the espresso machine? Liam took it. The smart TV. Also Liam. The sound system? I pulled out my phone, showing her our bank statements from the last 3 years. 87% of our joint purchases were paid for by me. He contributed 13%, mostly to things with his name on them or that impressed his colleagues. She studied the numbers. You paid for your own anniversary presents. Usually, he'd forget, then reimburse me later. Sometimes, she sat down heavily on my rearranged couch. Eugene is a 3-hour drive. You couldn't have called me yourself. To say what? That I finally stood up for myself? That I'm done pretending everything's fine? To say I needed my mother? But I didn't. That's what everyone can't seem to grasp. I don't need saving or intervention or casseroles. I need people to trust that I know what I'm doing. She looked around the apartment, seeing it for the first time as times mine times instead of times ours asterisk. The coral is nice, she admitted quietly. Brings out the light. Mom stayed for dinner, both of us eating her casserole in comfortable silence. She left the second one in my freezer, kissed my forehead like I was 12 again, and drove back to Eugene without trying to fix anything else. That night, I slept better than I had in months. 3 weeks passed in a blur of work shifts and small freedoms. I bought curtains Liam would have hated. Started reading again, remembered what my own laugh sounded like. Then Beatrice cornered me. So I saw your ex last night, she said, pretending to organize charts. Oh, at that pretentious wine bar on Pearl Street with a brunette who looked like she'd rather be getting a root canal. Chloe, it had to be. He was leaning in, trying to talk to her, and she was just scrolling her phone. Didn't even look up when he ordered. Beatrice's eyes sparkled with vindication. Karma is a beautiful thing, isn't it? I waited for satisfaction to hit. Instead, I felt an unexpected wave of sadness. Not for us, not for what we'd lost, but for Liam. For the man who'd been so afraid of being ordinary that he'd destroyed everything real in pursuit of something that glittered from a distance. That's just sad, I said. Beatrice looked surprised. You're not happy about it. Why would I be happy watching someone I once loved be miserable, even if he earned it? That afternoon, I decided to tackle the closet, the last frontier of Liam's presence. Behind winter coats I never wore, I found a box I'd forgotten, his old journals from when we first met, some unworn ties, and at the bottom, a leather notebook I didn't recognize. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. The entries were from 5 years ago, right after his first promotion. His handwriting, usually so precise, was frantic in places. Galara saved someone's life today. Literally restarted a heart with her hands. I sold software to people who don't need it. How do I compete with that? Asterisk. Another entry. Asterisk. She never makes me feel small, but I feel small next to her. She's so steady. So sure. What happens when she realizes she married down? Asterisk. And the one that stopped my breath. Asterisk. I love her so much it terrifies me. What if she figures out I'm ordinary? What if she leaves? Maybe if I leave first emotionally, it won't hurt as much when she goes. Asterisk. I sat on the closet floor, surrounded by donated clothes and tax receipts, understanding finally that Liam hadn't fallen out of love with me. He'd fallen out of love with himself, and instead of working on that, He'd sought validation from someone who didn't know him well enough to see through his performance. Chloe saw the successful consultant. I saw the man who had panic attacks about client presentations. Chloe saw confidence. I saw the boy who still sought his mother's approval at 37. She understood his facade. I understood his foundation. And that terrified him more than losing me. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, but the preview showed a law firm's name. The courier arrived an hour later with a manila envelope. Inside, divorce papers with Liam's signature. His lawyer's note was brief. Mr. Vance wishes to expedite proceedings. He's agreed to all your terms. Asterisk all my terms. Asterisk I hadn't even submitted terms yet. I spread the papers on my kitchen table. His signature looked shaky. He'd given me everything. The apartment, the savings, even things I hadn't asked for. It felt like reading a suicide note written in legalese. I signed my name with the same steady hand I used for death certificates at work. Another ending documented, witnessed, filed away. 2 days later, I ran into Tom at the grocery store. Liam's best friend since college. He was buying frozen pizzas and beer, the universal shopping list of a man housing a heartbroken friend. Elara. He looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Hi Tom. We stood between frozen vegetables and ice cream. He's staying with me, he said finally. On my couch. That's good. He shouldn't be alone. Tom laughed, a bitter sound. Chloe kicked him out. Well, not kicked out, since they weren't living together, but she told him she needs space to process. Funny how that works. I said nothing. He cries, you know, Tom continued, needing to tell someone. Every night looking at your wedding photos on his phone. He keeps saying he destroyed everything for someone who doesn't even like him that much. She liked the idea of him, and he liked the idea of being understood without having to actually be vulnerable. Tom shifted his basket of bachelor food. He knows it's too late. Knows he can't fix this. But Elara, I've never seen him like this. It's like he finally woke up and realized what he had. Sometimes people need to lose something to understand its value. That's cold. No, I said, selecting the good ice cream. The kind Liam always said was too expensive. That's honest. And honesty is what was missing all along. Tom studied me. You look good, Happy. I'm getting there. He won't bother you. I made him promise. But he wanted me to tell you if I saw you that he's sorry. Really sorry. Not expecting anything, sorry, just sorry. I nodded, paid for my ice cream, and left Tom standing there with his frozen pizzas and the weight of his friend's regret. That night, on my balcony with the good ice cream, I pulled up our wedding photos, the ones I'd hidden in a folder months ago. We looked so young, so certain. Liam's smile reached his eyes in a way I hadn't seen in years. I was looking at him like he hung the moon. Maybe he had once, before he got scared of heights and climbed back down. I deleted the folder, not out of anger, but out of kindness. To both of us, some things needed to stay buried for new things to grow. The empty photo folder stared back at me, a blank space where 10 years of memories had lived. I closed the app and set the phone aside, finishing my ice cream as Portland's lights twinkled below like promises I was finally ready to make to myself. 6 months later, I stood on a different rooftop, champagne flute in hand. The same city spread beneath me, but everything else was transformed. Vivian and Beatrice had insisted on celebrating my promotion to head of cardiac unit at the exact spot where Liam had proposed 11 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. To Elara, Vivian raised her glass, who saved her own heart with the same precision she saves everyone else's. To not needing anyone to understand us, Beatrice added, her voice carrying the weight of her own divorce 3 years prior. To choosing ourselves, I said, and we clinked glasses as the sun set. The rooftop bar had been renovated, new furniture, new lighting, even a new name. But the view remained. Mount Hood, the river, the bridges lit up like jewelry. I remembered standing here at 23, saying yes to a man who promised forever. Now, at 34, I was saying yes to myself. You know what the best part is? Beatrice said after her second glass. You look 10 years younger. I'm not even exaggerating. It's like you shed a whole decade of exhaustion with those divorce papers. She wasn't wrong. My face had changed. The permanent furrow between my eyebrows had smoothed. The tight line of my mouth had softened. I'd started wearing lipstick again, the bright coral that matched my accent wall. George, the doorman, had mentioned the same thing when he'd helped me move the previous week. I'd found a one-bedroom apartment 6 blocks from the hospital, smaller than the place I'd shared with Liam, but flooded with light. I'd painted one wall sage green, another dusty rose. Plants crowded every windowsill. Miss Vance, forgive me for saying, George had said, setting down a box of books, but you're glowing. Then quieter. Mr. Vance still drives by sometimes. Parks across the street. Looks up at the old apartment. I don't think he knows you moved. Let him look, I'd said, arranging my grandmother's china in new cabinets. He's looking for someone who doesn't exist anymore. 2 weeks into my new space, on what would have been our 11th anniversary, my phone buzzed with a text from Liam. I saw the preview. Asterisk, I understand now. What I was looking for was times I screenshotted it, sent it to the group chat with Vivian and Beatrice. Vivian responded immediately with laughing emojis. Beatrice wrote, asterisk Karma's employee of the month right there. Asterisk I archived the message unread. Some words come too late to matter, like CPR on a patient who's been gone too long. You can go through the motions, but you can't bring back what's already moved on. That night, I worked a shift in the cardiac unit I now ran. The same fluorescent lights hummed, the same vending machine stood guard, but everything felt different when you were building instead of escaping. I was updating charts when I noticed her. The new nurse, Nora, sitting alone in the break room at midnight, staring at her phone with that familiar look of someone pretending everything was fine. Long night? I asked, grabbing a coffee. She startled, quickly darkening her phone's screen. Oh, Dr. Vance. Yes, Mr. Miller in 3002 is being difficult. That's not what's making you look like that. She laughed, a hollow sound. My husband's working late again. 3rd time this week. He says it's normal, but your gut says otherwise. Her eyes filled with tears, quickly blinked away. I'm being paranoid. I sat down across from her, remembering my own midnight vigils in this same room. Can I tell you something? The night my marriage ended, I was standing right here. My ex-husband sent me a text saying he'd found someone who understood him better. You know what I did? What? I told him to stay with her. Best decision I ever made. Nora's eyes widened. You just ended it? That simply? Ending it was simple. The 10 years of pretending that led up to it. That was the hard part. The working late, the growing distance, the feeling like you're going crazy for noticing what everyone else pretends not to see. That's the real killer. But what if I'm wrong? What if he really is just working? I leaned back, studying her tired face. Then having an honest conversation won't hurt anything. But in my experience, when your gut screams this loud, it's usually right. The question is, do you want to spend years gathering evidence? Or do you want to trust yourself now? She sat with that for a moment. Were you scared when you ended it? Terrified. But you know what scared me more? The thought of spending another 10 years waiting for someone to see me while I disappeared. Understanding yourself, Nora, is more important than being understood by someone else. And sometimes when someone tells you not to call them, literally or figuratively, the best response is simply, "Okay, I won't." Nora nodded slowly, something shifting in her expression. "My mom always said, not all endings are failures." Your mom's right. Some endings are victories disguised as losses. Sometimes the greatest revenge is just choosing to thrive. I stood up, my coffee cold, but my purpose warm. Whatever you decide, remember, you're allowed to choose yourself. It's not selfish. It's necessary. Walking back onto the floor, I passed the cardiac monitors, each one tracking a heart's rhythm. Some steady, some struggling, all fighting to keep going, just like us. The only difference was that human hearts could choose their own rhythm once they stopped letting others set the pace. I thought about Liam, probably lying awake somewhere, finally understanding what he'd lost. About Chloe, discovering that understanding someone's ambition isn't the same as knowing their soul. About George, watching a man return to stare at empty windows. About my mother, finally seeing her daughter bloom. But mostly, I thought about myself, the woman who didn't fall apart when her marriage ended with 20 words, who signed divorce papers with the same steady hand that saved lives, who painted her walls impossible colors and bought the good ice cream and learned that being alone wasn't lonely when you actually liked your own company. I looked at my reflection in the dark window of the medication room, coral lipstick still perfect after an 8-hour shift. Eyes clear and focused, the ghost of a smile that had become permanent these past few months. This was what thriving looked like, not grand gestures or dramatic revenge. Just a woman who'd finally stopped waiting for someone else to understand her and decided to understand herself instead. And that understanding that was worth more than 53 missed calls, more than midnight apologies, more than 10 years of trying to be someone's everything while slowly becoming nothing. The greatest revenge, I'd learned, wasn't making them sorry. It was making yourself whole. Sometimes, walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Alara's story reminds us that peace begins when you stop begging to be understood and start understanding yourself. You don't owe anyone your silence, your forgiveness, or your endurance. What you owe yourself is freedom, the kind that comes from choosing peace over approval, and self-worth over familiarity. If Alara's journey moved you, please support USLA1 Stories by subscribing, liking, and sharing this video with your friends. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories of resilience and rebirth to life. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next videos.